Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's good to be together on this Shabbat. You know, as we were saying just a few minutes ago, all of a sudden, it seems like the fall season has landed on us. Certainly getting dark earlier. It's getting cooler out. And we're in the new year. In fact, we're at Shabbat Bereshit this week, the beginning all over again. And in the Parsha for this week, we read about creation of the world, creation of human beings, creation of everything, from the beginning of the first day to the seventh day of creation. And here we are in Shabbat, the seventh day of creation. So let's turn to page 181. As we read the words and sing the words, Ki eshmira Shabbat, El yishmereni. As I keep Shabbat, God watches over me. Ot hi le'ol me'ad, beino uveini. It's a sign forever between me and God. Ki eshmira Shabbat, El yishmereni. Who's going to lead us in the lighting of the Shabbat candles in one of the readings on page 20 and 21, followed by lighting the candles on page 23.
We read responsibly on the top of page 21. This Shabbat sheds light upon us, light for the days to come. We have a leisure by which to see the world with new and grateful eyes. We have time now to look inward. And now we are free to embrace family and friends to make our lives simpler and more complete.
We think of our homes and those we love when we call to mind the duties and affections of home. How greatly are all blessings enriched, all cares and sorrows softened.
May the hearts of parents and children always be turned to one another, that our homes may be sanctuaries of love and devotion. May we use this Shabbat to bring happiness to our family life and blessing to our people. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher Kachanu Mitzvotav, Vitzivani Lahadlik Ner, Shal Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Kachanu Mitzvotav, Vitzivani Shal Shabbat.
We join together on the top of page 25, the last stanza of Yedid Nefesh. Higalena ufros chavivi alai et sukat shlomecha. Higale, na ufros chavivi alai. Even though our Sukkot we have taken down from the holiday of Sukkot, that Sukkot Shlomecha, that shelter of God's peace, remains over us, protecting us. We continue together on the top of page 27. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. And as we turn to this day of creation, we welcome Shabbat, the words of Lecha Dodi, page 29. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Lekrat Kala, ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Lekabela, ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Lekrat Kala, ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Lekabela. If you're standing, you're invited to be seated as we continue responsibly on page 33, the words of Psalm 92 in the English. And Jeff, would you lead us there, please?
A song for Shabbat. It is good to give thanks to the Eternal One, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to tell your love in the morning and your faithfulness in the night, to the sound of flute and harp, and to the music of the lyre.
Your deeds, O God, fill me with gladness. Your work moves me to song. How great are your works, Eternal One. How profound your design.
The righteous shall flourish like palms, grow tall like the cedars in Lebanon. Rooted in the house of the Eternal, they shall be ever fresh and green, proclaiming that the Eternal is just, my rock in whom there is no rock.
Together we turn to the words of Baruch on page 36 as we rise physically or spiritually. Please be seated if you're standing as we join together responsively in the English of Ma'ariv on the bottom of page 37. Frank, would you lead us there?
Is that a bet or?
Bet.
Bet. God of all worlds, how insignificant we are in your sight, and how minute in your presence. You are creator of the universe so vast that the effort to conceive it overwhelms the mind. Our mightiest telescopes scatter at a corner of it. The rays of light that reach us from distant galaxies began the journey long before we came to be. Counted for first creation, the heaven liver was born but yesterday, and we made our appearance on it only a moment ago.
When we consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what is humanity that you are mindful of us? What are we mortals that you consider us? Baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim.
Amcha
praise the Eternal One who loves our people Israel as we rise together for the words of Shema and Ve'ahavta on page 40. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Ha'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Ha'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol lebecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzacha hayom b'amecha v'shinatam levanecha v'tibatam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shavtecha u'bnecha u'kshatam le'ot ha'itecha v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'b'sharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם בארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני Elohim, amen. If you're standing, please be seated. We join together in a reading of Geulah, reading of redemption. Rachel, would you lead us in reading Bet, page 42?
Okay. I, Miriam, stand at the sea and turn to face this desert stretching endless and still.
My arms reach to the sky, and I want to sing the song rising inside.
My mouth open, I stop. Where are the words? Where the melody? In a moment of panic, my vision goes blank. Can I take a step without knowing a destination? Will I falter? Will I fall? Will the ground sink away from under me?
The song
is so informed. How can I sing? To take the first step, to sing a new song, is to close one's eyes and dive into unknown waters, for a moment knowing nothing, risking all, but then to discover the waters are friendly, the ground is firm, and the song rises again.
Say
As you redeemed Israel and saved us from arms stronger than our own, so may you redeem all those who are still oppressed and persecuted. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, Eternal One, Redeemer of Israel. As the night falls, we ask God to watch over us and to protect us. In the words of Hashkivenu, page 45, we sing these words of prayer together.
Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us with wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, Hamidenu Shoreinu Lechai. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, Hamidenu Shoreinu Lechai.
Bottom of page 47. Sean, would you lead us there, reading that?
God of our ancestors, why do we say our God in the God of our ancestors? There are two sorts of believers. One for whom faith has been handed down from our ancestors. The other has arrived at faith through searching and contemplation.
In the first instance, faith cannot be shaken, no matter how many objections are raised to it. But there is a flaw in this. Faith is passed on from generation to generation as part of our tradition, and so it may have been learned without thought or reasoning.
The advantage of the second is that faith is reached through its own power, through much searching and thinking. But this faith also has a flaw. It is possible to shake it by offering contrary evidence.
But the one who combines both kinds of faith is invulnerable. That is why we say our God, because of our searching, and the God of our ancestors, because of our tradition. On page 49, we join together in the words of Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadol v'yitkadosh shmei Rabbah, be'amad yivarach yirteh v'yamlich malchutei, b'chol yechonu v'yomecha, u'chayetecho beit Yisrael, b'agala, u'bizman kari, v'yimaru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam olam le'amaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnosei, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei l'kudasham. Le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata, v'chata v'lechem ha'tada mi'ira ve'oha, v'yimaru amen. Adonai sivatai tiftachu v'yagid milatecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Avraham
Please be seated. We continue responsibly on page 55 with reading Gimel. Jenny, would you lead us there?
Where has the weekend vanished? Where has this weekend vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished.
Will I ever be able to manage the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom?
On this day, let me keep for a while what must still drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide.
And now Shabbat has come. Can it help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time?
Can it contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of a frantic life, when all days abandon me? Shabbat abide.
Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. We ask God to be gracious to us and to accept our prayer in the words of Ritzay. Page 57. Ritzay Adonai Eloheinu Be'alcha Yisrael U'tefilatu Be'apapat Tigabel Baruch atah Adonai Al-Machazir Shechinato L'Tzion Shefoch Ruchacha Aleinu B'tachezenu Eineinu B'shuvcha L'Tzion Be'rachamim Baruch atah Adonai Al-Machazir Shechinato L'Tzion Al-Machazir Shechinato L'Tzion. The words of the Hoda'ah prayer remind us that every day is a gift, that we have many blessings in our lives. And at the bottom of page 59, we thank God. We gratefully acknowledge that God is our creator and our preserver, and we give thanks to God. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Eloheinu. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai. Page 62. Radiant is the world's soul, full of splendor and beauty and full of life.
Of soul sing, of treasures of the Holy Spirit, of fountains of strength, of greatness and beauty.
Proudly I ascend towards the heights of the world's soul that gives life to the universe.
How majestic the vision, calm and joy, come find peace, embrace delight, taste and see that God is good.
Why spend your substance on what does not nourish and your labor on what cannot satisfy? Listen to me, and you will enjoy what is good and find delight in what is truly precious. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav We take a few moments now to pray the words of our own hearts. Page 66. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, and peace descend on us, on all Israel, and all the world. On the Shabbat Breshit, we read about the beginning, the creation of the world, the 6 days of creation, our responsibility to care for the earth, and we also learn about the creation of human beings. There are actually 2 creation narratives in Breshit, and it's not so easy to reconcile the 2 different versions. It would be easier for us to have a singular narrative in our foundational text, but our Jewish tradition has encouraged us to embrace complexity. We understand that complexity can coexist with wholeness. My friend Rabbi Ruth Abush Magder, the Director of Education and Rabbi in Residence of B'chol Lashon, globaljews.org, shared some beautiful teachings this week on those two creation stories. She reminds us that each time we engage with these stories, we uncover more of the mystery and discover a bit more of the truth. The story of Bereshit, of Genesis, reminds us that re-examining beginnings can help us find a deeper understanding of why and how we have arrived at this moment, and how we can use these insights to continue to uncover and understand other creation stories in our lives. There is a creation story, a founding narrative, that makes Canadians proud of our country. It is a version that many find hopeful and inclusive. It is what we have been taught, and this telling is part of a dream that many have. Yet this narrative is not the only one. This Canadian creation story has swept aside and blotted out the narrative of our First Nations Indigenous community. At Solel here, we begin all of our board and committee meetings with a land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is part of the treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Peel region is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg Ojibwe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Iroquois, and home to the Métis. It was most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. On this day, our meeting place is still occupied by many Indigenous peoples from across North America. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work and pray on this land, and by doing so, we give our respect to its first inhabitants. This week, actually just yesterday, September 30th, here in Canada, we observed the first official National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This day honors the lost children and the survivors of residential schools, their families, and their communities, and public commemoration of the tragic and painful history and ongoing impacts of residential schools is a vital component of the reconciliation process. I wore an orange shirt yesterday, as I'm sure many of you did, in solidarity with our First Nations communities and to raise awareness of the very tragic legacy of residential schools and to honor the thousands of survivors. Orange Shirt Day began as an Indigenous-led grassroots commemorative day that honors the children who survived these residential schools and remembers those who did not. This day relates to the experience of Phyllis Webstad, a northern Shuswap from the Canoe Creek Northern First Nation, on her first day of school, where she arrived dressed in a new orange shirt, which was then taken from her. It is now a symbol of the stripping away of culture, of freedom and self-esteem that was experienced by Indigenous children over generations. There were 140 federally run Indian residential schools that operated in Canada between 1831 and 1998. That last school closed only 23 years ago, and the survivors and their families deserve recognition and reparation and accountability for the lasting legacy of the harms caused to them. This year has been a year of pain and recognition since the discovery of the unmarked graves of Indigenous children at the Kamloops, St. Eugene's, and Marival Indian residential schools. And sadly, we know there are many, many more. In June, the leadership of the Reformed Jewish Community of Canada put out this call for action, which reads in part, "We know that this was not a discovery, but a confirmation. And we know that silence is not a solution to the continuing pain and injustice experienced by Indigenous communities. We stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples to address the historic and ongoing effects of colonialism, to ensure a rich heritage, legacy, and future for your children and your children's children. Our tradition teaches that the loss of even one life is the loss of a whole world, and this particular loss is unfathomable. We bear witness to the truth and call on our governments to follow through on commitments made to ensure meaningful reconciliation, including following through on Articles 71 through 76 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, outlining crucial steps related to missing children and burials. We further acknowledge that the injustices inflicted upon Indigenous peoples in Canada are not limited to historic events like abuse that occurred through the residential school system. Rather, there continue to be pressing issues facing Indigenous communities, and it's our responsibility to work together to address them. As our Jewish tradition further teaches us, while it may not be upon us to complete the work, we are not free to desist from it. As Jews, we know how to hold on to these types of complexity. We need to continue to advocate for truth and reconciliation in our schools, our government, and our communities. That is the path that we must pledge to walk together, to weave a new creation story for all the inhabitants of this great land. Shabbat Shalom. On page 133, you'll find the words for Mishaberach. We ask God to bring comfort and strength to those in our families, in our community, and all those who are in need of strength and healing. On this Shabbat, we think especially of Shirley Herman, Esther Vuckenmarkt, Rick Valentine, Simon Green, Yvonne Dixon, Marlene Friedman, Linda Levenhack, Jack Kudlatz, Francis Van Tyne, Suzanne Scher-Stimpson, Bernie McLennan, Harriet Lachman, Jill Rich, Ellen Becker, Ilana Miriam Batchava, Nicola Proetti, Lois Dean, Eliyahu Ben Yitzhak Visarha, Phil Berkowitz, Liz Travis, Rebecca Bodbull, Parker Kaikot, Tzvi Tzur, Philip Shepard, Carl Katz, Gilon Naruzi, David Friedman, Josie Pitch, Nicole Hansen, Renee Marmorio, and Raina Rowan. I invite you to share aloud the names of those for whom you are praying, or to hold those names in your heart as we pray these words together. We turn now to page 149 page 149 as we rise for the words of Aleinu.
Aleinu Shabbat Adon Hakol, Latei Gdula Yotzei Bereshit, Asher Samcha Kenu Yocheret Shemo, V'Gor Aleinu Lemlich Malchuto, משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצא לארץ ומושב יקרו השמיים עמך ושכינתו זו וגובה מרומי הוא אלוהינו עליון אמת אלוקינו וסולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת ארץ ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Page 158. You are with us in our prayer, in our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble and pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. At this time, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those of our friends and neighbors, those of all people whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember two for whom we are sorry to announce the passing of former Solelnik Rochelle Krivy, the wife of Boris, and Kenneth Rich, the father of Jill, and the father-in-law of David Lipovsky. We are in Shloshim at this time for Michael Shapiro, the brother of Howard Shapiro and Carla Rose Shapiro, the brother-in-law of Deb Stock and the uncle to Emma and the late Sophie, son of Francis and the late Phil Shapiro. We recall as well the following, whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of whose death occurs this week. Harry Goldenberg, the father and father-in-law of Carol and Jeff Copeland. Bertha Sachs, the grandmother of Marlene Weaver. Nathan Weisberg, the uncle of Jules Weisberg. Ann Mursky, the aunt of Cheryl Englander and Rabbi Lawrence Englander. Louis Davidson, the grandfather of Carol Van Tyne. Abraham Van Tyne, the father of Leo and the grandfather of Lisa, Michael, and Rachel. Gisela Gordon, the mother of David, the grandmother of Malcolm and Liam. Hannah Faulkner, the mother of Susan Carnival, the grandmother of Mark, Juliana, and Allie, and the great-grandmother of Jordan. Harold Segal, the uncle of Harold Levy. Rachel Segal, the grandmother of Harold Levy. Manny Rotman, the father of Roz Zelding, and the grandfather of Gail, Jeff, and Mark. Gertrude Katzman, the mother of Cheryl. Elizabeth Lucchese, the grandmother of Andrea Galambos and the great-grandmother of Andrew Georgescu. Bonnie Cates, cousin of Emma Weisenbluth and Wayne Romberg. Richard Schur, the brother of Linda Sage Alexander and the uncle of Alex Sage. Stan McDonald, the father of Lori Zelding and the grandfather of Hannah and Gavin. Anna Hammer, the mother of Eva Lieberman. David Laderman, the father of Doreen Levine and the grandfather of Sean, Stacy, and Michael. Leo Cook, and Rabina Regina Jonas. If there are other names that you are here to say Kaddish for the Shabbat, I invite you to speak their name aloud or to hold their name in your heart. As we ask those who are mourning to please rise first. And we say to you, Min hamakom tinachamu, may you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now we all rise to support those who are mourning and to say Kaddish for those who have no one to say it for them. page 159. Yitgadal v'yikadash me'rabah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechonu v'yomechon, v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kar'i v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, le'alam olam me'almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kedusha b'richu, le'elam imchol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all those who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say together.
Amen.
Please be seated. At this time, it's my pleasure to call upon Sonia Botnick, who is representing our board. Sonia will share greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Attending in-person services, which we have returned to at Solel, requires reservations and proof of full vaccination. Important details will be on the Solel website. All of our services will continue to be live streamed at solel.ca/live and on YouTube and Facebook, so you can continue to attend virtually if you are unable or uncomfortable to attend in person. Our next services next week, in addition to the one tomorrow, will be October 8th, that's Friday at 8 p.m. for an Erev Shabbat service, and October 9th, Saturday at 10 a.m. First Shabbat morning service. Upcoming events include Rabbi Pollack's adult text study, which resumes October 17th at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays, and also Thursdays at noon, there's Solel lunch break, which is on Zoom. Have lunch with Rabbi Pollack and discuss the current events and enjoy each other's virtual company. There's also Solel's book review series, which begins November 15th. Rabbi Englander will be reviewing The Prince of Healers. An extra reading opportunity for those of you who love books. In partnership with the URJ Small Congregations, we've been invited to join the Port Washington Book Club series for author talks. The first one will be Wednesday, October 6th at 8 p.m. The book talk is with Dr. Merrill Ain. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Sonia. We conclude our service, page 163, with words of Kiddush, and it's my pleasure to call upon Jeff Copeland to lead us. Please rise and join with us. If you're joining us on the live stream, feel free to raise your own glass and toast to l'chaim.
Vayhi boker yom hashishi, vayechulu hashamayim v'yaharetz v'chol tziva'am, vayechal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i malachto asher asa, vayishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol malachto asher asa, vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'yikadesh oto, ki bo Shabbat mikol malachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei beri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher tishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kosho ve'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tevilah b'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher tziyat Mitzrayim, ki banu
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We wish you a joyous Shabbat day of peace and rest. And we invite those of you that are here to join us for Oneg to go outside, and those at home, hope you have something nice to nosh on. Shabbat Shalom.
Yashikol.
So,
What's the sign?